Here. All right, good morning. We are getting ready to do emotional regulation. 3 inhales of inhale, exhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. That's going to take place with me counting you in a descending order of three. Wow, I'm gonna have to get a pause. 3, 2, 1. So let's get this neural party started. 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm sliding back in front. Good morning, Daisy. Good morning, Happy. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Second time for some of us. I am Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers, daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Ewen II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout. Today's topic is grow continually. It is the 59th principle of real leadership. So we are rounding third. On this second iteration of Tell Me, Show Me, and then we will move on to the Let Me portion. Now, the quote for today is growth happens daily. Growth happens daily. It happens daily. It's not infrequent. It's not calendarized to the point where it's event-based. It happens daily. Neurological growth happens daily if you choose to grow continually. This slide is sponsored by the elements H2O. So make sure that you have some liquid gold next to you, water, vasa, agua, that your brain is 75% water. As a result, you need to hydrate. Okay, so let's get started with grow continually. Here is my definition of my principle of real leadership, grow continually. Growth isn't a goal, it's a mindset. It isn't a goal, it's a mindset. So there are two types of mindset, fixed mindset or growth mindset. So when you grow continually, it's because your mindset is set to grow continually. Now, what could potentially stop you from growing is that basal ganglia is like, nah, we good. The amygdala is like, no, stay safe and stay the same. So if you have emotional dysregulation, you don't have a growth mindset. You will not be able to grow continually. And when you have emotional regulation, it is a neurological expectation that you learn something new every single day so that that working memory, that's what the TikTok live was about this morning, will continually grow. So real leaders expand, evolve, and elevate daily. I'm going to say that again. Expand, evolve, and elevate daily. That's daily. It's not weekly. It's not, oh, the holiday season is coming. I'm good. I'm going to wait till January. No, it is daily. Every day you are expanding your neural pathways. You are evolving as a person and you are elevating to be the best in everything that you do every day. Set and maintain high standards over here. Set and maintain high standards and then inspect what you expect and be the best. 3 principles of real leadership, all designed for you to consistently and continually grow to become your best version of yourself. As I've mentioned before, this is you versus you. It's not you versus anybody else unless you're in an actual competition. But in your day-to-day life, it is you becoming better than you were yesterday. You growing and becoming a magnificent person. I have been gone from my corporate job for over 15 years. I am not the person that left that corporate job. I have way more neural pathways that are connecting. I have way more information. Hello, Bridget. Way more everything because I've been reading a book a week for the last 11 years. So I have more information, if nothing else, because I decided to get out of that toxic situation and decide something has to be better than this. Anything is better than this. And now I know that it was one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life. So real leaders stretch beyond comfort zones to strengthen their competence. So be technically competent is also one of the 74 principles of real leadership. I took a leap of faith and left that corporate job and said, we're going to find out. And now I am more technically competent than I would have been had I stayed in that job. Flip your camera or do you have it that way on purpose? I can't flip my camera on, Bridget. YouTube doesn't have that option for me. So you're saying so you can see my shirt correctly, it won't help me do that. Yeah, YouTube has it. They just got, when we first started on YouTube in January, yes, I can't flip it on YouTube. They don't have the ability to do that. So yeah, in that regards, TikTok is better. So I will say this. There are pros and cons going on every live, pros and cons. So on TikTok, I can flip my camera and I can show you all those cute little slides, but you know what I can't do? Save the whole entire live on TikTok. So all that work that I put in on TikTok, all I'm gonna get is highlights. So on YouTube, that's why the lessons are over here, is because as soon as I finish YouTube, YouTube turns the whole live into a whole complete live so that you can rewatch it. So there is no replay on TikTok. But also on YouTube, I can put a green screen. Can't flip it. If I flip the camera, it's going to flip out. And I also can't flip me either. So there are pros and cons. And on Instagram, I can have Nola on there because she has the right amount of followers, but then I can't put a background on the Instagram lives. So pros and cons on all sides. Okay. So yes, so leaving my comfort zone, but I have more competence, and I actually watched my supervisor, my 2 levels up. Well, then at one point she was 2 levels up, then 1 level up, and I saw a video of her about 2 years ago, and she was being interviewed by a podcaster. Now she is a senior VP at Frito-Lay, and watching her unpolished presentation, saying filler words, not having a higher lexicon than she did. So she was the same when I left Frito-Lay, she still is that same person, even though she has a higher title, and that's because of a lack of challenging herself and growing continually. So her position in the organization grew, but at the end of the day, it's just chips on a truck. It's salty snacks and some food groups, because Pepsi, but no, because she's at Frito-Lay. So it's just salty snacks. So when you stay in a position too long, in an organization too long, while what appears to be forward progression because you're getting promoted and you're making more money, the mission is the mission. Take raw materials, turn it into finished goods, and sell it in the marketplace. I don't care how you slice it and dice it. That's the mission of the organization, and then deliver double-digit profits to Wall Street every quarter. You can't grow doing that for 30, 40 years. It's impossible because there's nothing that says grow, because the main thing is still the main thing. So me taking the leap of faith over 15 years ago to do something different is why I'm sitting here with a brain t-shirt on, teaching adults how the brain functions so they can become their best. Now, one thing is that real leaders see every experience, success or setback, as a teacher. It's teaching you what to do and what not to do, what worked and what didn't work. And what happens is when you have emotional dysregulation, you won't take a leap. As I talked about on TikTok a couple days ago, that comfort, that once you do that one thing and it causes pain, you go ahead and you get your crutch and go sit your ass in your comfort zone, and then you never do anything else. But flaws and alls, I'm gonna learn something. This worked. I tried this. I attempted this. It didn't work. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I did this and it did work, because you're sitting here today, 12 years into my YouTube channel with 130 something playlists and 12,000 videos. But there was a point when there was only one video on YouTube. There was a point when I was sitting at my desk for my whole first 101 book challenge, where I had my Mac Pro book. I couldn't even, because cameras weren't cameraing like they are now. You actually had to use a camera back then to record. And all I could do was sit in front of my Mac Pro book, hold my finger down, and I would have to do the whole book review in one take, because I didn't know how to edit videos, and then I would take that button off. And that was it. Her job became her cage. Yes, ma'am. Her title and all of that. Yes. And it was interesting to see the deterioration neurologically. Like, damn, I would be, oof. I wasn't going to make it. Wasn't going to make it. So what happens is you learn and you grow and you challenge yourself. And from those experiences, that's why those videos are still on YouTube. Because to quote Tamla Mann, y'all looking at my now, but you don't know my then. And I know technology has improved, but also my video editing, and good morning, Jared, my presentation skills have improved because it's in your daily. So it's been 12 years of daily. And that's how we get here today. And because of my continued and constant growth, because I was Dr. Donna since 2008. So before all this kicked off, I was Dr. Donna. And I could have stopped in 2008. And yeah, that working memory would have, none of this would be here at all. And I would like to say, before I started my book challenge in November of 2014, The most books I had ever read, excuse me, in a year was 24 books. And I thought I was doing something. I was doing what you was doing. You was about to do, Jared. I was reading a book every 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, I read 24 books this year. And then, and now that's like, oh, that's cute. Look at you. You read your 24 books. Okay, cool. And I only did it once. So yes, I read 24 books last year. And now that's nothing for me to do. That, especially the books that it was too. It was, yeah. It took me 3 weeks to read my first book challenge, 101. It took me 3 weeks to read How to Be a Billionaire. That book took me out. The font was small, the language was higher than I was accustomed to reading, and it took me literally, I had to read other books while I was reading books. So for 3 weeks, I was reading 3 books because my first book challenge was 100 books in a year, and I actually read 101. But when you are growing continually, you now have things that you can do at a higher level. Like I said, I still struggle with spelling. I just misspell bigger words now. So again, you see that experience as setbacks and success or setbacks, both as teachers and things that you can learn from. Now, growth is not about getting bigger. It's about becoming better. I'm going to say that part again. Growth is not about getting bigger, it's about becoming better. And prior to me moving to Las Vegas, I thought in order for me to learn and grow and change, I needed to move. I moved 4 times when I was in the military in 5.5 years, and I moved 4 times at Frito-Lay in almost 10 years. So I thought you need to move because in corporations, if you want to grow in the company, you got to go to where the job is. In the military, it's the same thing. And so when I got here, and I didn't move, and now we're in December, we will have been here 15 years, and I had the same bed spurs since fucking 2012, same furniture, everything. I'm like, but I have changed the most in my adult life. This is the longest place I've ever lived in my adult life, 15 years, and I have grown and changed the most in these 15 years. So that let me know that it's not about moving to a bigger house. It's not about getting a more luxury or luxurious vehicle or having even more expensive clothes or things like that. It's up here. Because what I found out is that when you grow up here and you are fulfilled, you don't need as much out here. You don't need as much. So we purged a lot of things throughout the years because I'm fulfilled up here. I'm self-sustained up here. So now I don't need rugs and pictures on the wall and change out the furniture and go shopping and do all these other things because each day I get to learn and grow and develop and support other people's growth and development too. And that's more fulfilling than being a preferred customer at a lot of stores. I don't do that anymore. I used to get a call, your stuff is in, your stuff is in. And Noah thought everybody had that type of shopping experience. She didn't know that that was not normal because for her, it was normal. Nevis would call us from Lucky Brand, going to the Gucci store. We're in White House Black Market. We got the big room. They're bringing stuff and all. So she thought that that was normal. I was like, that's not how that works. So if there was no growing we would not be here either and still our own comfort zones and not knowing why. I agree with you, Happy. That is exactly correct. So if you chose not to grow, I chose not to grow, then none of us are sitting here on YouTube Live. We would be on our phones, but we'd be looking at some dumb shit. That's just the truth. So again, growth is not about getting bigger. It's about becoming better. And I'm better today than I was 15 years ago when I got here. Well, I was still in Alabama at that point. When I walked away from that corporate job and decided this ain't it. And the real leader brain thrives on curiosity, reflection, and renewal. And so the basal ganglia can keep you stuck, or the basal ganglia can say it's time to grow and change because it is where the habits are formed. And so for me, my basal ganglia is like, look, we've been doing this too long, it's time to switch. We've been doing this too long, it's time to switch. We've been doing this too long, it's time to switch. And so that's why if you started on lives in January, you have watched it change because I'm assessing and I'm saying, okay, that part worked, that part didn't work. So the time works and the information is there. But if you go back, and I challenge people who weren't here in January to go all the way back, even when I had a red and white brain background and all of that, you can see the incremental changes that took place because I'm now almost, what is it? Got to be 290 something days in because we ain't got but 2 months left. So 280 something days. And today is 705 of me going live. So in these 705 days, I have been able to grow and understand and learn and develop because of the incremental changes that happen on the daily basis. So in this moment, we're going to go ahead and drink water. Something is hurting my ear. This thing is too tight. Damn tablet rotating. It's supposed to be. Go back. Yes. Okay. So why is it difficult as an adult to grow continually? I'm glad you asked, Jared. So here is the problem. It's difficult for adults to grow continually because the adult brain naturally prioritizes stability, predictability, and efficiency over change. So growth requires rewiring. And the brain resists that unless it feels safe, empowered, and rewarded. So, good morning, Regina. In order for you to grow, now this is the most important part. In order for you to grow, you have to have emotional regulation. And in order for that to happen, you need a strong prefrontal cortex. And this is what you need when you have a strong prefrontal cortex. You need a why and you need a strategy. And when you have a why and you have a strategy, guess what's going to happen? Amy and Lala and the basal ganglia are going to be quiet. If you have a dumbass plan and if you have emotional dysregulation, no growing. It's not going to happen. Wrong ingredients, it's not going to happen. Wrong everything. It's not going to take place. So everything I'm saying is creating emotional regulation, a strong prefrontal cortex with a why and a strategy. That is how you get it done every single day. And so here are the reasons why growth is hard for adults. The comfort circuit, the basal ganglia and the amygdala. So the basal ganglia stores habits and routine. And once patterns are formed, it prefers repetition over risk. And take risk is one of 74 principles of real leadership. And so the basal ganglia is like, yeah, I'm going to do what I've been doing. I don't know about that risk. But guess what happens? When you take risk every single day, the basal ganglia starts repeating taking risk. It starts repeating, oh, did we take a risk today? What you doing? We didn't take a risk yet? Where the risk at? Where's the risk? But in adult brains that are saying, nope, I'm not going to grow, that basal ganglia and those amygdalas are like, the amygdalas. So the amygdala interprets new challenges as potential threats, triggering discomfort and avoidance. Nope, that's going to make us uncomfortable. We're not going to do that. That's going to make us feel unsafe. We're not going to do that. And so translation, growth feels unsafe to the primitive brain. Chat didn't call your brain primitive. So it's like, nope, not going to do that. Next is the efficiency trap. So you have prefrontal cortex fatigue. The prefrontal cortex is normally responsible for decision making and learning, and it consumes a lot of energy. That's why you got to drink water, because it is taking up. It is an energy sucker. It is taking a bunch of energy. And so adults often conserve mental energy by doing what's familiar rather than learning something new. So the translation is growth demands more focus than the brain wants to spend. You got a weak prefrontal cortex. The thought of thinking and growing and developing is like, yeah, man, we ain't got time for that. Not about to do all of that. Next is the identity loop. And this is happening in your default mode network, the DMN. This maintains your self-story of who I am and how I do things. So continual growth requires updating that story, which can feel like losing part of your identity. So the translation is this: growth challenges your self-concept, not just your skills. So when I left the military, I was Captain Thomas. And now I go to Frito-Lay and I'm Donna. And I'm not used to people not saying ma'am. I'm not used to people not jumping up when I walk in a room and getting saluted and all that. That you see them bars, you know what you got to do. And now I'm walking in looking like Chris Henry, who was the plant manager. We got on a golf shirt and some, we have Dockers and some steel toe shoes. Everybody got similar outfits on again, right? Similar uniforms. So now I walk up and I don't have this rank. I don't have this experience. And I've been here for 2 months. So people are like, oh, you the new manager. You the new manager. So my default mode network is like, no, you Captain Thomas. It's like, nope, you got to start from scratch. And then I leave Frito-Lay after being a mega zone manager and I walk in the room and now I'm Dr. Donna. And people like, and? So I've started all over again. I got you Google me, you got my LinkedIn profile. And now I have to build that back up again. And so the default mode network says, nah, man, just stay in the Army. You know you're going to make full burg. Just, you're going to get promoted above the zone. This, you just having a rough year, Frito-Lay. Just stay the course one more year. You know you're going to get moved to somewhere else. You ain't even going to be here that long. Just stay. And next thing you know, you a senior VP still talking about chips on the truck, or you go and do something else. So your who you are is wrapped up in that, and now that is constantly changing. When I started on lives, I was talking about turnaround tactics. We don't even have turnaround tactics no more. And now I'm talking about the brain. But it's progressing and it's growing because it's effective. Because at the end of the day, I want to know what's stopping adults from becoming their best. And now I know it's neurological. So that's the path that I have to take. And now I have to learn about the brain. What? I thought you was a leadership expert. I am. But what's stopping you from being the real leader is your neural pathways. So now I have to study the brain because that's what you need in order to do what I'm talking about. So that's a little bit of cognitive dissonance because your self-concept has to keep changing. And people want to know. If somebody from 20 years saw me today, they'd be like, where's all your Gucci stuff? Where's your... I don't have that anymore. I've grown past that. I'm using this now. I have some of it. If I need to get dressed, I can go pull it out. But I'm more than those things. And that's what also takes place is you become your possessions. And so now you're like, oh no, I can't pull up in the... I'm from Detroit. We got to have curb appeal, Motor City, baby. And we got to do all... And now, so you're using all your neural pathways on the outside. And now you can't use your neural pathways for the inside to grow and develop and change. That's why I can't talk to nobody from my past no more. Because they still stuck in the past. They can't let go of that shit that makes them them and hold on to something else. So that's what's taking place. And that's why people can't grow. Next is the feedback drop. So children grow fast because they get constant feedback. They get praise, they get correction, and they get encouragement. And this is what Nola experienced. Is she had all that support. She became an adult and it was crickets. The only person that was still there was me. And adults often operate in isolation with less feedback or reflection, which slows neurological adaptation. So the translation is that the brain grows where it gets attention and feedback. You said what, Doc? I said the brain grows where it gets attention and feedback. That's why you keep coming back over here. And that's why you are over in Instagram, soon to be in TikTok when Brain 101 starts up. Because the reason why you stopped growing was because you stopped getting feedback. If you work at a job like I did in corporate America, you get a mid-year review and you get an end-of-the-year review. That's 180 days and then 65 days. So you go on 180 days, 6 whole months with no feedback unless you fucking up. But if you're doing a good job, you don't really hear shit. And then you get to the end, you get a 5% raise, maybe, cost of living, and that's it. You don't get feedback in your relationship. You're not sitting down with your significant other once a week talking about what's working, what's not working, how to improve. Your children aren't coming up to you saying, hey, Mom, good job today. I really like that meal. And I want to help you with. That's not happening. And so you just stay where you are because you're not getting new information to improve past where you are. You want to get promoted at work, you go back to school, you're like, oh, I like school. I'm getting test scores and all of that. But you don't have that measurement beyond your day-to-day. And Nola is realizing that. She's like, dang, being an adult sucks. She had to go get her blood taken. She was like, yeah, they're going to give me a cookie. I said, they don't give you no cookie as an adult. She's like, dang, I don't get a cookie. No. You don't get a cookie, you don't get the butterfly needle or nothing. You go in there, they take your blood, you have a conversation, and you out the door. It's like, man, here we go again. Why we get all this stuff as a kid? This and that. I'm like, I don't know who made these rules up, but you don't get a cookie. So we wouldn't have breakfast at Zippy. So she got pancakes that she had to pay for. But that was that. So now you don't have this feedback and you can't understand how you're doing, which is no braino. And now you're stuck. And now you don't want to grow. And you don't know that you need to grow, as Bridget said. And then, no, I said, I wish I could get a cookie. Yes. Okay, I apologize. And so then you ended up with pancakes and eggs and corned beef hash. So then there is this empowerment mismatch. So dopamine and purpose. So without meaningful goals, the dopamine levels drop and they drive down the growth and it weakens. So because you are not getting release of natural dopamine, your ability to want to learn and grow and continue to grow decreases immensely. And so what happens is adults who stop connecting growth to purpose lose the neurochemical reward for learning. Do y'all understand what I just said? Because you are not experiencing new growth opportunities, you lose that dopamine, and that neural pathway for learning gets pruned. And so the brain needs purpose for fuel for progress. And so what happens is now you start looking for external dopamine because neurologically you don't have the neural pathway to produce it yourself. So because you're not getting feedback and because it's cognitive overload everywhere, the basal ganglia and the amygdala like, nah, we're not changing. You wrapped up in who you are. The last thing you're going to do is grow. Because when you don't know something, you're a novice. You're a neophyte. And now you're going to look stupid for a minute. And the last thing you're going to do when you got all your accoutrements and your titles and degrees and shit and money is look dumb. Who would like to look uninformed? No, I'm not going to do that. And so now you spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on social media. You start going to football games. You got the box seats and everything. So you need an external stimuli that says, I'm growing. Look, I got box seats. I'm sitting on the floor. I pulled up in the woo. We just moved over here. We just took a vacation over here because that dopamine is saying, look, I'm growing. I'm progressing. See, our house is bigger. We just got new furniture. And now that is feedback. Oh my God. No, you didn't. Let me see them pictures. Ooh, you look good in that swimsuit. Ooh, what was those drinks? Oh my God. I live in Las Vegas. All we got to do is drive on the strip. Everybody doing like this. Everybody got, so they can say, ooh, did you see that? The Las Vegas sign. Now they didn't even have parking over there. Now it's parking. You got to wait in line. Whole bunch of stuff happening over there now because people are coming. And people are still coming here regardless of people saying they're not. Is it down slightly? Yeah, but they moving here now. Instead of just visiting, they staying. So that's your reward loop. So instead of learning and growing and answering my question today, which is in the chat, which is who invented the money clip, that no, people with inside of their ego and everything else that don't want to change, that are wrapped up, I would never look that up. I don't care who invented the money clip. I just know I have one and I have money. But what you don't have is growth. That's why I don't work with famous people. That's why I don't work with people with positions of power or authority, because they trying to show me who the fuck they are, and I'm trying to show them who the fuck they ain't. And we are at an impasse. Like, I don't give a fuck that you got a Grammy. I don't care about that bullshit. I don't care that you're an elected official. I do not care how many contracts you got on this strip. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. You ain't turning your shit in on time. End of discussion. You ain't taking this seriously. You looking for another fan, and I don't do that shit. Yes. Well, there's a bunch of people moving here now. There's a lot of them. We turned into a major city now. Ugh. And so the point is that that's why you can't grow, because the basal ganglia is comfortable. The amygdalas are like, growth looks like a threat. Your ego and your default mode network and all that you've worked on is making you seem like this. You're not getting any feedback from your growth, and it's not immediate gratification because it takes at a minimum. You can go to a football game to get manufactured dopamine quick, but if you got to go emotional dysregulation, depending on how dysregulated you are, shit, you could be 6 months. You're definitely going to be 8 days or 8 to 21 days just to get a neural pathway going, and that don't sound sexy. So now you go buy something. You take everybody out to dinner and pay for everything. You have everybody over to the house so they can see the 98-inch television and all these things. But then you get to the end of your day, and what did you actually accomplish? What is actually yours? What did you build? What did you create on your own? And the answer is nothing, because you don't have the neural pathway to be innovative. You don't have the ability to go beyond this little cubicalized ass fucking manufactured existence that you put yourself in. That's why I said many years ago, 2018, I said, I'm making my own content. I'm cussing. I'm using doggone lenses and everything else. Ain't nobody about to put me in a box. Ain't nobody about to put me in a box. And the only reason why, one of the reasons why I don't dress up on the live is because, first of all, it's early as hell in the morning, and that's not necessary. I'm sitting down. I got these hot ass lights. I'm not about to be adding no makeup to this shit. I'm not about to be having bangs and not bangs, but I got hair that cover eyes, and now I'm already doing all this, and I'm sitting down. I don't have to do that. But if I need to go somewhere, please believe, dress to the nines, and I can do that. So that's still part of me. That just doesn't have to be all of me. I could be on here with just this amount, my shea butter on my face, and that's it, because I'm teaching you about the brain. But you can't do that if your nails have to be done every time. If you got to have on jewelry, and you got to have on necklaces and watches, and you got to have some cognac or whatever it is that you're doing, and everybody has to see your stuff because you ain't got a lot going on. I ain't got to do all that because I'm the thing. I'm here. I'm the shit. I'm the baddest motherfucker walking the face of the planet Earth, and you can be too if you decide that you're going to grow continually. With that being said, before I go ahead and get into what actions you need to take, go ahead and drink water. Drink water. Do I need to go on YouTube? There we go. Yes, drink water. There we go. I was just making sure I didn't have to go on YouTube to see the comments. So what are the daily actions that you need to take to grow continually? Bridget, I'm glad you asked. It's an excellent question. And so here's what you need to do. The adult brain can absolutely keep growing, but only if it's stimulated intentionally and consistently. So here's the neuroscience that daily actions that adults can take daily in order to grow continually. You got to challenge your comfort zone daily. You write that down. You got to challenge your comfort zone daily. That's the basal ganglia. It's got to be challenged every single day. Do one thing every day that disrupts your routine. And we talked about this a couple of days ago. Take a new route, talk to someone new, try a new idea. You are doing this on purpose so that the basal ganglia gets accustomed to not being comfortable and gets accustomed to discomfort. So this forces the basal ganglia to update its pattern, strengthening neuroplasticity. And so the real leader action is, I don't repeat comfort, I rehearse courage. I don't repeat comfort, I rehearse courage. So it's not like, oh, yep, I'm gonna do this routine every single day, the same way every single day. No, I'm gonna change up this routine every single day. I'm still gonna get everything done. I'm just not gonna do it in the same order. And I'm also going to take a new route. I'm going to talk to somebody I don't know, and I'm going to try a new idea. And when you do that, the basal ganglia cannot consistently remain comfortable. Number 2, you're going to reflect before you react. And that's in the prefrontal cortex. So you're going to take 5 minutes of mental reflection before major decisions or responses. And I always say be objective. That's one of the 74 principles of real leadership. You write down just the facts. And you write down the pros and the cons. And if you can deal with the cons, then you go ahead and go with the decision. If you cannot, then the answer is no. But any major decision, you need to make those decisions based upon facts. So reflection activates the prefrontal cortex. It strengthens your emotional regulation and your perspective taking. So pause is power. It turns reaction into reflection. So always pause, 10 significant seconds of silence. And then even if you need to do a brain dump, I'm gonna write down everything in my head so that cortisol isn't there and you're clear. So now you're using your working memory so that you can institute making sure that you respond instead of reacting for anything. Next, you learn something new every day. That's going into the hippocampus. So you read, you listen, or observe something outside of your field. That's why I'm now in neuroscience, because that is so outside of my background. You can't ever connect them to dots and say, yeah, bachelor's degree in public law and government, master's degree in criminal justice, doctorate in organizational leadership, neuroscience. No. Why is she talking about the brain? What that got to do with leadership? So yes, learn something new every single day. And you're going to strengthen your hippocampal connections, improving your memory and your learning agility. And so I treat every day like a classroom. Every day like a classroom. Even when I get off lives, I'm still reading. I am still thinking, what's the best way to improve this? How can I add more? For the Instagram subscriptions, it's like, what am I going to put this graphic? I'm going to use this video. Am I getting ready to ask a question? Is it a prompt? Is it an audio? So I'm ensuring that I am learning and you are learning, and it's being placed into your hippocampus all the same time. Number 4 is you manage your emotional energy, and that's through the amygdala and the insula. So you practice more emotional labeling. And I've sent the PDF the feelings PDF along with a 3-step process to several of you. And so you say, I feel stressed and not stuck, because you're processing your feelings. What am I feeling? What am I going to do? Why am I feeling it? And what am I getting ready to do about it? Now you're in the prefrontal cortex and you're assessing it. The insula and the amygdala are giving you information, but you're processing it and saying, okay, is it real or is it fake? Now, this calms down the amygdala and it increases insula awareness, helping the brain to process emotions rather than store it. I regulate before I relate. I'm checking on this. I get this notification. Is this cortisol brain fog bullshit or is this actual real shit? Let me see. I'm going to regulate it before I relate it. Okay. Number 5, you're going to seek feedback and reflect. And that happens in the ACC. So you ask someone weekly, what's one thing I could do better? So you ask your significant other, you ask your adult children, your homie, your homegirl, your friend, your bestie, your supervisor, what's one thing that I can do better? Now remember, be very conscious of the person that you're asking this information to. Because if this person has emotional dysregulation, this person is a friend of me, they're not going to give you some real shit. They're going to tell you the world some shit that they're going to benefit from, and you ain't going to be able to benefit from. So consider the source before you ask that question. Now, the ACC thrives on feedback, and it drives error correction and adaptability. So feedback fuels my evolution. And remember, solicit feedback is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. So you're asking to improve your performance or improve your behavior. Not, do you like me? Why you don't like me? No, we're not doing that, okay? Because what happens with unaccountable people is they don't give you feedback. They give you destructive criticism and say that, and so they start attacking you instead of improving your performance or improving your behavior. And it'll feel bad. Like, ugh, I don't like that. So make sure you are talking to a person who has emotional regulation and a strong prefrontal cortex when you ask for that feedback. Number 6 is that reframe mistakes as data. And this is happening in the prefrontal cortex and the default mode network. So you replace self-criticism with curiosity. So you say, what is this teaching my brain? And I say, there's a lesson behind this shit show. What is it? And then it builds psychological safety for neural wiring. And so I grow through what I go through. And I tell people all the time, grow forward. All this is happening so you can grow forward, because it's character building and it's strength building. So if nothing ever happens to you, then something actually does happen. You're not going to have the neurological strength to be prepared for it. So it is character building. We've had character building seasons. I know I have. I'm in one now. So character building strengthens that prefrontal cortex so that when storms come, you are ready. And when it's time to celebrate, you're ready for that as well. So it's, I grow through what I go through. So you're growing through it. But unaccountable people with emotional dysregulation sit in their comfort zones and say, no, I'm not facing that. I'm not facing that. I'm just scrolling on TikTok. I'm good over here. And the next thing you know, something actually happens that you actually need to respond to. And you're neurologically inept to do it because you didn't strengthen and grow daily. So now you're on the phone trying to call somebody who did grow daily and you need to borrow their neural pathways. But no, absolutely not. Do not help somebody that sat on their ass and didn't create their own neural pathways. Sound like you're going to be stuck. Maybe you should watch some football. Okay. And number 7 is you protect your rest and recovery in your default mode network. So you give your brain downtime, quiet walks, journaling, or I don't say journaling, it says writing things down, brain dumps, sleep, or meditation, breathing. All of those things work. So the default mode network integrates learning and creativity during rest. So rest refuels my resilience. So that's why relax and take naps and have fun are all 3 of the 74 principles of real leadership on purpose, so that you can protect it and recover it when you are in your default mode network and your downtime. That's how that goes. All right. So what questions for me do you have? Any revelations, any thoughts about growing continually, any experiences that you would like to share? Feel free to do so. Where is mine? Is it that? Yes. I'm going to rename that. And if you're thinking, Let me go on YouTube and see what's happening. Okay, got it. Growing continually is what I would be doing for the rest of my life. Yes, sir. It is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing when you can do it. What was the question? I got clicked out. So the question is, do you have a statement or question, an aha moment of reflection on anything that I have covered? And I would also like to say, drink water. All right. Challenge the comfort zone daily. Do one thing that disrupts your routine daily. Yes, it's the hardest thing to do as an adult. One of the hardest things, besides be a parent, it's one of the hardest things to do because it's self-directed. Because you could go, once you get your degree or get your job, no one's checking for you anymore unless you have a child, have a health challenge, have a grandchild, get married, or get divorced. Nobody's really checking and holding you accountable to be extraordinary, because the measurement, again, is stuff that you can see. So nobody's walking up to you, hey man, I ain't seen you in 20 years. What you been learning for the last 20 years? No one's, they like, hey, how you doing? How the kids doing? How the missus doing? How your husband doing? They start asking you about all the things that they can see. But no one's saying, hey, I ain't seen you in 20 years. You got some new neural pathways? Did you learn anything? You know what I'm saying? How many synaptic connections did you make since I seen you last week? That's not what's taking place. Continue to work with you always makes me grow. Yes. So that's what's happening. I'm saying, watch this. Go contact somebody today that you ain't talked to in years. And then they say, what you up to? You say, nah, I'm just over here being a bad mofo. You know what I'm saying? There's neuroplasticity over here, baby. I'm heads off, fire and wire. That's all I'm doing. I got these new neurons, neural pathways I'm working on. I'm working on being a real leader. They can be like, you smoking something? Did you drink? You doing what? You doing what? Then you're going to get off the phone. They're going to be like, man, Jared over there in some coat. He talking about some neuropath, some brain shit over there. What in the world? When was the last time you got some new neurons from the dentate gyrus? Exactly. When did you go to the hippocampus bank of neurons? When did you do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm over here with this emotional regulation and shit. Cool as the other side of the pillow. I'm reflecting instead of responding. I'm responding instead of reacting. Over here in my default mode network. You know what I'm saying? I was over here talking to the twins, telling them to sit down and be humble. They are going to hang up or send somebody over there for a wellness check on you. Reading. You reading? What's up? You studying for the job? You trying to get a promotion? That's what's gonna happen. Oh, you looking up some financial stuff? You trying to get a loan from somebody? Line of credit at the bank? That's what's gonna take place. It's not. Nobody's gonna be like, oh my goodness, you know what? And I was in my default mode at work yesterday, and I was thinking, nope, not gonna happen. Not at all. I was, you know what? I was gonna respond, and then I had my 10 significant seconds of silence, and then I was gonna react. I was like, I'm about to punch them. And I said, you know what? It ain't even worth it. And I just went on, finished my grocery shopping. Not happening, but it will, and it can. Because I believe can makes the impossible possible. That's why it's one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Okay, so now we are at the brain bit. Your brain as an armrest. Your brain as an armrest. So when your brain gets tired, it wants comfort, not challenge. So what? So when your brain is tired, it wants comfort, not challenge. So if you have an exhausted prefrontal cortex, a weak prefrontal cortex, the first thing it's going to do is look for comfort. I need some comfort. I want some comfort food. I want to watch screen time. I want to do this. The last thing you're saying is, I'm going to challenge myself to see if I can read 7 books this week. No, you're going to watch 12 to 15 to 20 hours of television, but you are not about to take 2 hours and read a book. It's not going to happen. Not at all. When was the last time you did a 10 significant seconds of silence to regulate your emotions? Yeah. Yeah, Jared, ask somebody at the post office that and tell me what they said. Go ask two of your coworkers some questions when we get off the live and see what they say. They are going to look at us like we are crazy, using big words and reading. I'm telling you, oh, there you go, being highfalutin again. You got that from your mama's side of the family. Mm-hmm. Yes. And see what happens. What you talking about? Especially if it's a young one, they be like, yeah, he over, he OG over there. He got some wisdom for you all the time. All right, so when your brain gets tired, it wants control, not challenge. And so the mental armrest happens when your prefrontal cortex takes a break and the default mode network takes over. So that's what happened. I got a long day. Whew. And now the default mode network then took over. And guess what happens? Your mind starts wandering. Yes, your focus fades and your empowerment rests. It's like, nope, I don't feel empowered. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not visualizing my goals. I'm not saying any of that at all. I just want to sit here and mind wander. I want to daydream. I just want to scroll. I just want to check out. But real leaders notice when their brain is resting too long and re-engages their focus system. So resting too long. If we have a movie to watch and it's 3 hours or 2.5 hours, it will take us 3 days to watch that. We are not doing more than 45 minutes. We're not going to sit and watch a whole John Wick movie. Not going to happen. It is 45 minutes, and then the last half. Because the longer you sit, the longer you will sit. So yes, you can take a break. Yes, you can relax. Yes, you can have fun. Yes, you can take a nap. Yesterday we played like 5 or 6 games of Tonk before we finished up Cleopatra. So yes, you can do that because the brain needs to reset and regroup. But if you do it long enough, then that armrest is going to become part of your comfort zone. And growth happens when you stop resting on what you already know and start reaching for what stretches you. So, yes, I have a doctorate in education. And now what's stretching me is my neuroscience class because I don't have any background in that whatsoever. I got my 8th grade brain project that I did, and that was it. Nothing else that I could go back to in my hippocampus and say, well, what happened when we was in neuroscience 101? Didn't take it. Nothing happened because I didn't take it. So your armrest is there, and now you done turned it into a whole chair, and now you turned it into a whole resting system, and your basal ganglia is like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Amygdalae left and right like, no, we good over here. Look, you just got a new car. You just got a new house. Y'all just came off a vacation. You got money saved. You got the will for the grants. You got the insurance policy and everything. Why are you trying to change this? Yes, every single day you have to grow continually, every single day. So the only day that there is one day, I won't say every day, there is one day that you don't have to grow. The day after you're no longer physically here. You don't have to do it. So the day after you're no longer physically here, or the day you lose consciousness, you're good. You're good. You don't even need to send a doctor's note. You're done. You do not have to grow anymore. But until then, it's growth every single day. And I got accused that you always doing something. You always changing something. And this was before I understood neurologically what was taking place. And then I was accused of, you reading again? What didn't you just read? You over there, you doing some more training? You always in training. Because the job in and of itself was boring. I had a lot of additional duties when I was in the Army, because just being an officer in the Army, I'm like, this shit is boring. They're like, we need somebody to be NBC. Me. I don't even give a fuck what it is. I'm going. I go. Yeah. Yes, I'm fine. I'm 2 weeks over here, 2 weeks over there. Frito-Lay. Yep. Sign me up. Move Smart Training, yeah. PBT, CIMT, got it. DOT, sign me up. I'm there. Where do I need to go? How long I'm going to be gone? 4 or 5 minutes of watching a movie, that's interesting and makes sense. Yes. And what happens is you get to watch it on your terms, because the movie industry wants to take you on this long journey or whatever, but then you stop it, and then that's why you don't feel like everybody else feels when you finish the movie. Yes, that's why you always switch jobs. Yeah, I had a lot of jobs in those doggone that time that I was at Frito-Lay. More jobs than other people, because this still a person that I got hired with, and he's still in packaging and manufacturing, and that was in 2001. And we in our 50s now. He was a little bit younger than me, so he in his late 40s. But still on that packaging room floor at that same plant. Still. Not me. Not at all. You ain't getting more than 2 years out of me in any position. And even with this, I'm not doing the same thing I was doing daily when I started this YouTube channel 12 years ago. Not doing it at all. Okay, so drink water. I am knocking more stuff. Yep. Until they retire. And then they die. And if that's what you came here to do, then that's what you came here to do. But most people literally are there just because it's a comfort zone for them. Just because it's a comfort zone. All right, now that you have drunk water, the 3 questions on the table are: what did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what was your brain conversation yesterday? Ouch. No. You can if you leaped. How it happens, Jared, and I've mentioned this before on TikTok Live here. People attempted to do something and it went left and they shut down. And the amygdala, because of emotional dysregulation, says stay safe and stay the same. So that's what happened. And so they never ventured back out to revisit or do anything else. And they just built this safe comfort cocoon because the one time that they did go take a risk, grow, challenge themselves, it went left. And so they left. And that's how you end up doing it. And then you remember, the older you get, the working memory by 35 starts to atrophy. And now it becomes who you are. This is who I am. Default mode network is like, this is who I am. I can't change. That's why you got people in their 50s and 60s dropping new rap albums and in their 80s going back on tour again. Because, yeah, that part. We're going back on the road. We're going touring again. You're supposed to be working on your personal legend. You're not supposed to be doing that. You did that already. That's what Barbara Walters said. I read one of her books. And she said, I did that already. Mm-hmm. If you did it already and you mastered it, you don't have to do that again. You can get some new neurons and do something else. So what did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what brain conversation did you have? And the people that are going to see them are equally as stuck, because then they get to say, ooh, they still got it. Look at them. They still got it. They still. Okay. I learned that to become a bad mofo, I have to continually learn. Yep. That's pretty much it. Keep going to get those new neurons and challenging yourself, because that's the only way that you will get new neurons. That's the only way that you will get new neural pathways. We are learning about the 59th principle of real leadership: grow continually. There's an about section, Denver. There's an about section on my page as well, because we're getting ready to close out. So if you go to the about section, or if you go to the live tab on the home page, I've been live every day on YouTube since January 19th. So there's plenty of information there, but there's also an about section on YouTube. And if you need more information, feel free to Google me, Dr. Donna Louise Thomas-Rodgers or Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers. And then you can go to the website, turnarounddoctor.com, and all your questions will be answered there. Bridget, that's why I don't watch movies too long. Never thought to break up like that. Well, now you can. Before, we didn't have a choice, because if you had now you can pause it, but before, the movies would just come on and you would have to watch it. But now with streaming and everything, you have the ability to stop it. Back in the day, you had VCRs and DVDs, so you could pause it. Sometimes it stayed there, sometimes it didn't. But you do have the ability to break it up. Challenge accepted. That's what I learned about myself. I will take a look there once you end here. Got it. So what did you learn today? What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn about your brain? Not what you learned. What brain conversation did you have yesterday? I've been up since 2. So I'm 4.5 hours into my day. And the sun still ain't up. Okay. Noah said, I learned you have been empowering me to grow continuously my whole life by challenging me the whole time. Yes, ma'am. That was my job as your mama, as your primary caregiver, as parent numero uno. Because I don't do anything without a strategy. Not even raise my own child. My brain conversation was about me, about more mental triggers, reflecting to prevent outbursts. Yes, ma'am. We got a strategy in place. Bridget, I learned challenge the comfort zone daily. Do one thing that disrupts your routine daily. Yeah, you got to keep that basal ganglia on their toes, on their neurological tissue. Like, nope, I'm challenging myself. And you're gonna create every time you challenge yourself and you succeed at it, you create that nucleus accumbens dopamine reward loop, and now you have that natural release of dopamine. That's why when you look up the question in the Instagram broadcast channels and you look it up for yourself and you find the answer, now you've closed that reward loop, regardless of what the answer is that anybody else puts. And then when you're going back and forth, now you have all of these other reward loops that are taking place because you are exchanging serotonin and dopamine by answering the question and asking the questions. Nola said, I learned you have to grow continuously daily. And Jerry said, the brain conversation I keep having is where people are out of control, amygdalas, and anybody who would listen. Yes, sir. Especially in your profession where you're located, the amygdalas be amygdala-ing for sure. And Happy said, I learned to grow continually every day. That way I can be able to help someone else like you and can help change the world positively, one person at a time. Yes, study the brain, master the brain, teach others how to do the same. And that's how the people in the world will forever be changed. Postal is a thing. And then Bridget said, brain conversation with my aunt. She's in the first stages of dementia, trying to get her to understand cognitive abilities are declining. Yes, and you are still at Big Mama's house, Grandmama's house, with the family. And sometimes it takes a minute. And what you can also do, Bridget, is I forgot to say that you got to remember how your aunt learned. So sometimes people need a visual, sometimes people need to hear it, and sometimes people need to read it. So just saying it might not be enough. So if you asked your aunt, when you was in school, Auntie, how did you like to learn? What was your best class? And you start having those conversations and start asking questions, now you'll be able to determine what's the best way to give her this information. I just came on and I like your content and the responses. Okay, well, Denver, come back tomorrow then. I'm live every day at 5:30 a.m. My brain fog interrupts my brain conversations. So at that point, Daisy, you need to do a brain dump. Remember, you do your brain dump, your 5-minute brain dump in your, where is my brain? Here we go. It's under all my notebooks. So remember, you get your composition notebook and you get your brain dump. 5 minutes, just write down everything in your brain because your working memory is trying to do too much. So you can clear your head. And also do your 10 significant seconds of silence. That's that deep breathing. One breathe in, 1,000. 2, 1,000, and you get that release of that cortisol goes back down so that you can clear the prefrontal cortex. So 10 significant seconds of silence, go ahead and do a 5-minute brain dump, and then your brain should be clear enough for you to finish doing what you were doing. Okay, anybody else before we get out of here today? And your question is already up for people on Instagram. Y'all, question for the day is up. I think Daisy already answered it this morning. Anything else? Thank you. I will put that info into practice. Yes, ma'am. All right. So if that's it for everybody, I will be back tomorrow, God willing, higher power in the universe. Okay, Denver. Got it. Tomorrow, same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. You all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care. Adios.